Welcome, everyone, to our February 2026 GovAI Coalition meeting. Thank you so much for coming. If this is your first time, welcome. Great to have you here. At the end of the day, the GovAI Coalition is about building this community and making sure that we are able to enable public sector AI to serve the public good through resource sharing, standards, and advocacy. We got a few exciting items for us today. For those of you that are just joining or you've been here since the beginning, please say hi in the chat, your name, where you're coming from, how things are looking outside. Again, I'm dropping slides for the meeting in the chat. I know the chat's moving pretty fast, so I'm putting it there a couple times. We'll go through some announcements today. Really excited to share two new deliverables that have been coming out of the coalition just this past month. Going to be really helpful for folks around both community engagement and enabling training in your organization around AI. Then we'll have a discussion with Liz Bueller and Meg Young around the Community Engagement Committee and the Community Engagement Guide that was just released here for the coalition. Then we'll pass it off to community committee updates and we'll be on our way. So with that, if this is your first time coming into the coalition, welcome. So glad to have you. This is the structure of it. We look at tackling public sector AI from a variety of different perspectives, trying to give ourselves holistic support as we as governments try to serve our communities and our partners help try to serve us in that mission. From learning how to adopt and use AI, from governing the data underneath AI, procuring it, working with our vendor and industry partners, finding the right use cases, and of course, bringing our community along with us as we innovate. There's a bunch of information. You can find our starter guide on the slide deck on our website. You can take a look at our Google Calendar to find all of our committee meetings, all of our events, and we've got a walkthrough because I know to show folks how to download from the Google Calendar. Big update here. Our February newsletter is out. It's got a variety of different information. We've got some really cool perspectives, both from those in Long Beach and on our community engagement handbook on AI. Layla's dropped the link in the chat to our newsletter, and we just sent that out about an hour ago. Take a look. It's a great way to stay on top of some of the information that we're seeing around AI and innovative technology that is most useful for our governments. Now on to two things that I am really, really excited about. First deliverable that has come out of the coalition this month from our Community Engagement Committee is the handbook. We've heard from a lot of agencies. Where do I even begin? I have members of my community asking me about how we are using AI. Is it Big Brother? Is my data going to someone I don't want it to? We're getting a variety of concerns, questions, and asks from all of our community members. And the question on the block is, how do we as governments adapt to that and actually respond? Our Community Engagement Committee has done a fantastic job at putting together a handbook to walk any agency through how to get started on this journey. Layla, Meg, and Liz are going to have a conversation on that in just a minute, so I'll save the rest for them later. But I also wanted to shout out, and really excited to share this, our first release from our AI upskilling working group under our Readiness and Adoption Committee, all around how to get started on building training within your government agency. One of the things that we have seen coming out of some great folks, I've seen things from Boston, I've seen things coming out of Colorado, I've seen things coming out of course, San Jose, California, that using AI when you're training your staff on how to use it effectively and responsibly, you can really find some efficiency gains. We're seeing anything from 10 to 20% efficiency gains just across their entire job when they're becoming AI fluent. But that requires that they get there. And one of the hardest things that we found is building out that training within your organization. So I want to give a huge thank you to all the folks from our upskilling working group. A special shout out to the folks you see in the bottom right here on our slide from Stephen, Lon, Anaga, Sherry, Rich, Rick, Dr. Rupini, Simran, and Marty, who have worked on putting together not just this cool graphic that you see here, but an entire playbook underneath there that walks you through each of these steps on how to set up training in your organization. It is part of what our upskilling working group is going to be putting out over the next couple of months. We'll be able to talk more about it then. But in the meantime, go ahead, check it out. Again, it's linked in our slide deck, and it's open, available for folks to start using, start testing. And if you find any ways that it's helpful or not helpful, please reach out to us. This is a collaborative community effort, and any way that we can make this more helpful is helpful to us. So I think with that, I'm going to pass it off to Layla to share our main feature for the day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Albert. Hi, everyone. I'm Layla Doty, Privacy and AI Analyst at City of San Jose. And today we're very lucky to have Liz Bueller and Meg Young with us as our featured speakers. Liz is the Director of Innovation and Project Management at Salt Lake City, Utah. Meg is a Senior Researcher and Project Director of AIM Lab at Data and Society. And in addition to their day jobs, Liz and Meg are also your co-chairs of the Coalition's Community Engagement Committee, where they've been doing really amazing work around how we can promote more meaningful public participation around the AI systems that are used by government agencies. And as Albert just shared, the committee that they steer just released today a new resource called the Community Engagement Handbook for AI. And it's linked in the chat if you want to check it out. But it's a practical guide for folks in the government working to engage residents and impacted stakeholders as AI projects are being considered or implemented by public agencies so that those folks, their input can actually shape those AI initiatives. But the handbook isn't the only thing that Meg and Liz have been up to in the Community Engagement Committee. And we have some time today to check in with them to learn about the handbook and all of the other great work that they've been up to. So, Meg and Liz, thank you so much for joining us today. I think that it's so important that you two have cultivated this space in the coalition that is really dedicated to thinking about what it means to meaningfully involve residents in the process of buying and using AI, but also how we can empower our government practitioners on the call to do this really critical community engagement work. So I want to start off just with the basics because I think we have folks at all levels of familiarity on the call with community engagement. Can you tell us what it means when we say community engagement or public participation around AI, and why is that important?
So, community engagement and public participation really means taking the conversation about how our agencies are using AI to our residents, to our business owners, to other constituents our agencies serve. It's really important with our government work that we include those who are affected by that work. So AI often has high impact. So making sure residents are involved, one, they're on the ground, so they have what questions they might have, what concerns, what we get their opinions on what they need as well, because that can not only help you get feedback on AI tools that you're considering, but also talking to residents and finding out possibly what AI tools you should explore to better serve them.
That's awesome. Thank you, Liz. Meg, anything you wanted to add there?
Just strong agreement, and also that I'm so inspired by the work that all of you are doing, and thanks for those of you present.
I'd love to hear from either of you if you've had any personal experiences engaging community members on AI or emerging technologies and what that experience has been like.
Yes. So in the city of New York, I worked with the Office of the Public Advocate with faith groups, youth groups, immigrants' rights organizations. And we also recently had an event series with New York Public Library. So we heard from the general public. In San Jose, I got to work with Albert, Layla, and Chelsea on work on the object detection pilot. So we heard from immigrants' rights groups with language interpreters, and the city also engaged orgs who represent people experiencing homelessness. And more recently in Austin, I led AI 101 sessions with the general public at the Austin Public Library. And some takeaways from this work I'd like to share are that our residents are very interested to have these conversations about AI and what it means for them. And those conversations can be wide ranging, but the appetite is there. And any programming that we can do to equip residents with whether it's a AI 101 program, talk about the AI policy work that you're doing, any involvement you've had with the GovAI Coalition, people will show up, they will get involved. And the second thing I learned is that sometimes there's a worry that residents don't have the technical chops to have this conversation with us. But because these issues permeate our everyday lives, residents that I've seen in these sessions contribute a lot of value to these conversations and helping us understand what the problems are on the ground, giving us other ideas. And so these rooms are really a two-way exchange. The final thing I wanted to share is that often in government, we're used to public comment periods and large rooms, but we aren't always hearing from all of our residents there. So in some of the examples that I shared, we're doing particular outreach to groups that are more vulnerable, that we're less likely to hear from in those rooms, even if they need extra language access. And I've found that by addressing the digital rights concerns of these more vulnerable residents, we can make the tech that we're adopting safer for all residents.
Thanks so much, Meg. Liz, anything you wanted to share there?
No, I just the work really that Meg is doing, and also our great partners who are on the committee. Meg and I are just chairs of the committee, but really, if you look at the handbook, you have great stories out of Long Beach and Portland and San Jose. And all throughout the manual, you'll see ideas that we took from all of the committee members' examples. So just know you're not alone with this, and we really do have a community that can support each other and engage in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And Meg, I think your point about community members having a really strong entry point into these conversations where we might not think that at first glance really resonates. I know that when you were supporting our team here at San Jose and doing engagement with folks around object detection, it really only took a couple slides of priming information for folks to start asking really smart and critical questions about impacts of the technology. I think for folks who may have not done this kind of engagement work before, it can seem a little daunting, or they might not be sure where exactly to start. So I'd love to hear from you both about how the committee has been working to support agencies in doing this work and what resources like the handbook might be out there to support them.
Thanks, Layla. So, to the point that Liz made that you're not alone, that this work is happening, we've been looking around the country to find folks who are doing community engagement work and use the committee meetings to spotlight them with speakers. For example, we had Oscar Romero from the City of New York Civic Engagement Commission talking about work on participatory budgeting and community-based tech design. We have had also academic and civil society experts. So, Professor Sarah Fox from Carnegie Mellon talked about her work engaging bus drivers on the critical work that they do that falls outside of things that you can automate, and what are the things that would go missing if you were to have fully automated bus service. We heard from Professor Hong Shen on how to engage vulnerable residents using this really creative method for putting AI into comic book storyboards so that vulnerable residents can understand what are the key choice points and really inform the decisions that your agency is making. And recently, we've had Dr. Kate Stoll from the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and she's preparing an amazing resource on what questions to ask when considering data centers in your community. And we've been fortunate to have the other committee members as a resource for co-designing some of these outputs like that Kate Stoll is working on. The other thing I wanted to shout out, Layla, was the matchmaking program that the three of us put together. So you might be listening to this call and thinking, gosh, that all sounds great, but my team is strapped. We do not have the time or the personnel or the background to jump into this. We put out a call for interested government partners to raise their hands who might want to be matched with those in academia and civil society who had the cycles and the background to lead community engagement conversations. And we templatized everything. So MOUs, run of shows, things to make it really easy to jump in. And the good news is that all of that prep is still available. So if you're interested to pull down any of those templates from our matchmaking program, just reach out to us. And Liz, what else did you want to shout out from our work together?
I just want to really, from that work of having our speakers come and from the matchmaking program and these experiences each of our group has had, that's how we developed the handbook, because not everyone who participates might not have a background in community engagement. So what the handbook does not just gives you ideas on how to engage your community members specifically on AI, but also gives you a base level understanding of best practices in community engagement. So really to lower that barrier, because sometimes it can be scary going out and engaging the public. So just giving you some 101 tips for generally good engagement.
No, that's fantastic. From the handbook to the matchmaking program to all the sort of group learning sessions that we had with the guest speakers, the committee has been really busy, to say the least, over the past few months. And I think that some of that programming and the resources that we've put together was constructed to meet some of the gaps or the needs, challenges that we saw were common to agencies trying to do this work. And I know that we spent a couple of the early committee meetings really trying to identify what those common challenges and barriers were. So I'd love to hear, I think it might be interesting for the group just to learn more about what those barriers that the committee identified were, and also how we might try to overcome them together.
So if I can start, I want to give a big shout out to Meg and all at Data and Society, because we actually were able to start our committee meetings with a great engagement session, a salon series, where committee members got together and we identified those potential challenges and barriers, like Layla mentioned, and it was a wonderful space. We digitally whiteboarded, we talked through our issues, we also came up with potential solutions. But it seems across the board, the agencies that participated, we were all facing relatively the same challenges and barriers. And you could really group those into 6 areas. Resource constraints, I think we all know what it's like to work with not all resources available. Agency uncertainty and risk aversion, maybe people being scared of going out and engaging the public on AI. Public literacy in AI and risk. I know that's been popular in the chat during this Q&A, which I love to see. Lack of trust. We all know that as agencies, we can constantly be building trust within our communities. Centralized decision making. Sometimes we work in silos, but also identifying those impacted communities and how we outreach to those groups, which we might not necessarily be the experts in.
I love that list. I think it really represents what we've heard from our government partners. And I wanted to shout out one other insight a member of the committee had, which is that so often IT departments have been created to work on enterprise services and these internal facing infrastructure issues. And so the question of community engagement was something set completely aside. But the more that our IT departments are helping us with AI that intersects with service provision, the more it pulls that conversation out. And that's why our blog post is called Taking It IT to the Streets.
That's awesome. Yeah, and thanks for the shout out, Meg. Check out the blog post that this group wrote announcing the handbook. There's some great insights in there too. I have one more question for you two, and then I want to turn it over to a couple questions from the audience. And I think you've kind of hinted at this throughout our conversation, but for folks on the call who have never done engagement before, especially around AI or some kind of emerging technology, what advice do you have for them on how they can get started? Any helpful tips or things that they should just keep in mind as they embark on this journey of community engagement?
I would say the first thing, as someone who works in a government agency, don't be scared about talking to the public. It can be scary, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in it. Don't be scared. Second thing, and this is going to be a plug for the handbook, review the handbook because it really does have some great materials in there, starting from talking points to get your leadership on board, some engagement 101, some great templates. So it makes engagement planning really simple. And then also, if you're with a government agency, chances are you have comms and engagement staff, you probably have community liaisons, other people who work with the public. Talk with them, get their ideas specifically on how you can engage the public for your community. Because remember, while these are ideas, you always need to tailor your engagement to the people you are engaging.
Fantastic. Okay, with that, I think we have a couple minutes for questions from the audience. So the first one is from Raj, and Raj asks how we can use these forums not just for listening or educating spaces, but actually find a way to inform policy as public comments, have rules be quote unquote officially listened to, but how to think about these listening sessions and actually have them be captured and I think influence the actual policy and decisions that are made by our government agencies. Any advice on how we can make that engagement piece more meaningful and kind of close the loop there?
I love this question, and I think that a key part of this problem is how can we move the conversation upstream early into the problem formulation step. And some excellent work I always love to amplify is happening in Long Beach, California, where they have something called the CoLab, which is essentially co-design with residents, where residents from a community get tapped in to be part of a longer conversation where there's deeper listening and co-ideation about what the problems are, and then solutioning that comes all the way through the bidding stage and selecting the vendor. So if you're able to listen to residents about what the problems are, that is one way to make sure that there's strong throughput for the input that you're hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. Long Beach has been doing really fantastic work around engaging the community, and actually, there was a blog that was published today by them as well about this broader work and how it relates to their AI strategy in Long Beach. So check that out, folks. It's in the newsletter. Another question that we have from the group is from Rosa, and Rosa asks, "How do you introduce AI to those groups of the community that might not understand what artificial intelligence is?" And Meg and I think Liz, you both touched on this, but if you could speak more to like the approach that you use, how do you sort of enter this discussion and begin that like basic literacy building with members of the community who might not be familiar?
I think that it's helpful to talk about it as a type of pattern matching. And I have some slides on this that I'll drop into the chat that everyone is welcome to use that includes scripts. So you can just turn on the slides and read the script. If any of it is usable, it's up to you to remix, no problem. But really helping folks understand what it is that AI is doing is important because you are empowering them with the ability to understand what is it going to be good at and what are some of the limitations. Pattern matching is really good for generating, a cover letter, but it's going to have some path dependency and rely on things that propagate over time in ways that can be problematic. And so you're really giving residents some critical tools as well.
One thing I would add is when you're working with groups is identify those areas where they would like more information on AI. It's not going to be across the board. So that's why going back to general engagement practices, talking with their community leaders, finding out what the concerns are, what the hopes are in these communities, so that way you can adjust your training to what their needs are.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's really about meeting community members exactly where they're at, whatever that means, whether it be physically meeting them where their neighborhood association meeting is already happening or at the level of understanding around AI that they're currently at. And Meg, yeah, it would be great if you could drop the link to that resource in the chat. I think folks would really appreciate that. I think that's all the time that we have today for this Q&A, but Meg and Liz, I want to thank you so much for having this conversation and just for all the great work that you've been leading in the coalition. Yes, everyone, let's give them a big Zoom round of applause. And folks, if you'd like to continue this conversation with Meg and Liz around community engagement, wow, that's a lot of hands. That's fantastic. Stop by the next Community Engagement Committee meeting. It's going to be on March 19th at 1 p.m. Pacific. You can find the Zoom info linked on our Coalition Google Calendar and just reach out if you have any questions about that. But thank you guys so much. This was really fantastic. And with that, Albert, I'm going to pass it back to you for the committee update.
Thank you, Layla. And thank you again, Meg and Liz, for taking the time. Uh, really excited to see this type of resource. And again, please take a look at this stuff, see what is useful for you all as you are navigating what community engagement looks like for you in your AI journey. And again, this is just the beginning, right? The guide is out now, but now we need to support each other as we're actually using it and testing this stuff. I know some people are asking a little bit about the community engagement matchmaking program and how other ways that we can connect on things. Uh, More to come, hopefully, in the next couple months as we figure out better ways to support the adoption and usage of these tools. But really encourage you, take a look at them now, get your questions out so that we can start figuring out how we can best help each other move to the next step. So, with that, committee updates, and I think first, uh, Liz, Meg, since you're already here, if you want to give the community engagement committee update, anything additional, please.
Thank you. I will share that we have heard many questions from residents about the environmental impacts of AI. And so we wanted to make sure that the committee had a couple of cycles where we're really talking about that. Last month, we talked about the data center resource. And this month, we had my colleague from Data and Society, Hannah Lipstein, and Marina Saros talk about a resource that is supporting public agencies to consider the environmental impacts of AI across procurement and technology adoption. And we had a fantastic conversation with the committee members about equity, objectivity, and trying to talk about both the environmental benefits and harms, and also how can we drive our AI solutioning toward ways that AI can support resource effectiveness and sustainability.
Then I will pass it off. Rich, Sayer, uh, if either of you are on, to give an update on our readiness and adoption committee. Here to support folks adopting the materials like the community engagement handbook that we just talked about.
Great. Thanks so much, Albert. And just wanted to echo the comments at the beginning of the meeting about the great work that the AI upskilling group has been doing with the launch of this first playbook on getting started with AI training and the accompanying visual summary. Please check those out and get us feedback if you use these or walk through them. We really appreciate hearing feedback on that. Also, just a shout out, I think Marty Wolford and the upskilling group did the lion's share of the development work on this playbook. So I wanted to give her a really strong shout out, and also to Lon and Rick, who are really have been great leaders to this upskilling working group. They started with an interest in a meeting and have built this into a double-digit member working group that has really been exploring a lot of really great areas for the committee overall. And so I wanted to just champion everybody in that working group who's putting together such hard work. The next playbook, rolling out an education plan, will be coming soon in March. And then the last one is going to be about building custom chat GPTs and agents. So this is a series of 3 playbooks that we think is going to add tremendous value to our members here and the agencies that you represent. So really excited about that. They've got some ongoing work and certifications, some collaborative programs, and really exploring measuring the effectiveness of training programs. So more to come on lots of interesting areas, hopefully from them in the new year. Also wanted to give a quick shout out to Jim Brown, who's continuing his excellent work in AI in the fire service. He's building. We are launching these trainings through Fire Engineering Training, which is a national and respected training portal for fire professionals. Lessons 1 through 3 are live there. Lesson 4 is currently being added. He's coordinating with him on adding that, and he is currently building out lesson 5, and this is an 8 lesson series. So when that's done, it'll be a really full form training content with some certification at the end. So we're really excited about that. He's also added a new member from the National Fire Prevention Association to give some more perspective on training needs for fire professionals around AI. Currently he has the International Association of Fire Chiefs as part of his working group as well. And so that's really helping him with creating this unified fire service message. So very excited about that. Sahara continues to offer one-to-one adoption support. So for anybody on the call that's new to the coalition, that needs to talk about where do I get started with accessing the coalition resources or implementing AI in my agency, she is a great resource. She works for the city of Detroit and has been doing this work at her own agency and also helping multiple other agencies through the coalition. So if you ever need anybody to sort of say, okay, where do I get started? How do I start this journey? Sahara is a great resource for that. So really encourage you to reach out to her. And then just a preview for the future, we're exploring our committee structure and content. Albert and Sabra and Sahara and I are talking about that. And so we're really excited about some of the potential things that are going to go forward with the committee in the future. And that will be letting you know as those things evolve. But we're just really excited about all the great work that's being done by the members of the committee and are excited to continue to bring stuff forward. So thanks, Albert.
Thank you, Rich and team. And again, for all the links and all the things that you were seeing here, you can access our slide deck for all the information, both the playbook that Rich was just talking about and the community engagement handbook that Meg and Liz were talking about. So please take a look at that. And now I will pass it off to Emily for our procurement committee.
Hi, and we're going to change it up today. I'm going to pass it off to Aaron Bushman, my co-chair, to give today's presentation. Aaron, take it away.
Thanks, Emily. For this one, we have a lot of exciting topics on the horizon. You see the 2 check marks there as 2 of the topics we've already talked about. So back in, I think it was January, we looked at a case study of an AI procurement, or excuse me, an IT procurement, where I had used AI to do a bit of market research to look into some of what was in the market for a queuing solution for Colorado's DMV. So if you missed that meeting, feel free to email me directly. I'm happy to share the slides from that. I think Emily and Layla might have those as well. So reach out to any of us for that. And then our last call, we went into AI-assisted drafting for solicitation, specifically RFPs, including the statement of works, which anyone in procurement knows that can be a heavy lift sometimes to create those statement of works if you're coming, into it blank. So we had a presentation from Hazel AI. Elton over there gave us a great demo of their product. We also had a really good discussion about AI in the evaluation process. Lots of pros and cons to that. We looked at, what can go wrong, what can go right. Some really interesting and recent events on that one. So feel free to reach out if you have questions on that call. For the next 3 topics you see there that are on our horizon for this year in 2026, AI-powered vendor communications is something that we've got a lot of interest in across the committee. We have a few leads on potential demos and guest speakers, but this is a really broad one, so we would love any input or specific examples that people are interested in. Another one that I think a lot of people have seen across different government agencies is the use of AI chatbots in customer services, interfacing with the public, providing information, connecting them to the right teams. This one's also a very wide topic with a lot of examples that we could go into. Particularly, some that we've seen recently and talked about is how do you evaluate the cost and the value of that? And then how much importance can go into the training process for standing those chatbots up. So lots to discuss there. We will certainly have, I think, a couple conversations on that one. Then the last topic you see there is contract monitoring and management. This one, I think there's a lot of nuance depending like what your procurement team is structured as. If it's centralized or decentralized, sometimes you might have like an overarching team that handles some of the legal and negotiation aspects of that. But there is a lot of potential for AI to help supplement and streamline some of those processes. So a lot of exciting things on the horizon. We also have that last point there, some webinars and trainings about how to use shareable contracts. So as a lot of you may know, the GovAI Coalition has a wonderful partnership with Pavilion, where there is a shareable contract repository. So that's another example, I think, of just how important collaboration is in procurement. I think it's a great example of people putting their heads together and really sharing information to, make everything we do in procurement and in AI a lot better. I'll pass it back to Emily or Layla if you had anything you wanted to add for the procurement committee.
All good. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. And Aaron, just for those interested in the webinars, how can they expect to hear about them if they want to join?
Uh, Great question. So for that, I think there's a couple pieces we're still hashing out. The next meeting or the next two meetings will probably have some more specific details about that. But if you go to the GovAI Coalition website, there are some great links there where you can actually get access to that shareable contract repository. So lots of things to just dig into on your own when you have time and the interest to look into those. It's like I was saying, I think that's one of the best parts of procurement in the public sector is that sharing is caring approach really rings true.
Sharing is caring. I love that. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, team. And excited to see where those webinars when we're ready to announce them. I'm gonna pass it off to see if we got Yar or Tegan on for industry relations.
Yep. Thanks, Albert. I appreciate it. And hey, everybody, good afternoon. Really excited to kind of give an update on the Industry Relations Committee because I think we're doing some really awesome things. So I'll just go ahead and say thanks to all of our committee members for attending our last meeting on February 13th, where we did hear from the Carnegie Mellon University research team. If you remember my update from last month, you know that team has been doing some really interesting research over the past year, almost 2 years now, on AI vendor self-reporting mechanisms. What that means is they've been looking into our GovAI Coalition's fact sheet and how both public agencies and vendors kind of use that fact sheet. And so in that committee meeting, we kind of got an overview of their research and kind of wanted to give a quick little overview of that research to everyone today. So some things they found is that our fact sheet means different things to different people at different times, meaning that fact sheets can serve as marketing tools. They can serve as a conversation starter. I have that in italics because fact sheets are most commonly used actually as a conversation starter for both public agencies and our vendor community. And then also fact sheets can be used as an evaluation tool, which is kind of the original purpose we had when we went back and created a fact sheet a few years ago now. But another really interesting finding that the CMU team had is that fact sheets today, as they're currently being used, don't always meet the requirements to actually serve as an effective evaluation tool, which might seem like a complete negative. But I will say the research that the CMU team has done has provided them I guess, with the knowledge to provide us with a lot of recommendations for how we can improve our fact sheets and actually make them a little bit more of an effective evaluation tool. So as a committee, the Industry Relations Committee will definitely be focusing on kind of those recommendations over this next year. But moving on, I do want to remind everybody that we do have a new registry/marketplace available. That's where you can find all these awesome fact sheets and information about our vendor community and all their awesome AI solutions. So I want to remind everybody to go and visit that and search out for any AI solutions that you think might help your organization. You can use the code Coalition for free access. And as you're on there, as you're looking for all those awesome AI solutions, feel free to send us any suggestions or feedback on your user experience. We would love to kind of continue to upgrade and enhance this registry to make sure it's as usable as possible to all of our members. And then kind of to round this out, just want to remind everybody, we are kind of changing our committee schedule. Right now, we had kind of bi-monthly, I should say, or I guess 2 times a month meetings. Now we're moving to quarterly meetings to kind of fit the new schedule of our Industry Relations Committee. And I think that's all I have. So Albert, go ahead and pass back to you.
Thank you, Tegan. Thank you again for the great work that's been happening on the fact sheets and on the registry. If you haven't seen the registry hosted on Hortus Trellis's Marketplace, take a look at it. I dropped the link in the chat. I'll drop it one more time. It's something you should browse, take a look at. If you're a vendor, feel free to sign up. I dropped the code in the chat. If you are interested in joining coalition members, vendors included, can register for free. Put your products up there. Let that stuff be seen, showcase your transparency, and governments find the tools that work right for you. Really excited for that. Thank you again. Now, I'm going to pass it off to Nicole or Carrie or Hemant or Jamie on our use cases committee.
Hello, thank you so much, Albert. Hi, everybody. Jamie Wascalis from the city of St. Paul. Great to see you all here. I think there is an early theme emerging in the use cases committee in 2026, and that is really about hands-on tools to help us serve our communities. At our last session on February 17th, we had Mark from Scottsdale who showed us a demo of really how he's using different platforms, LLMs, vibe coding tools to work faster and deliver services more quickly. This AI isn't doing all the work, but it is taking in some cases days off complex designs and getting things moving forward. So we're going to continue that theme with our next Use Cases Committee demo session, which is coming up on March 3rd. Join Nicole Sterling, the amazing Nicole Sterling, and awesome Melanie McDonough. They're going to lead us into a deeper dive into how vibe coding can positively impact public sector work. I'm really excited for that. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, but you are interested in seeing how we can do some hands-on work, and I'm talking about you really don't have to have a technical background for some of these. It's really awesome. Come join us. It'll be fun. Also, just want to announce that our Use Cases Committee is moving to just having one meeting a month for the next couple of months. We had been having two, but we're going to take a pause because we are combining forces with the procurement and industry relations committees to really help boost the promotion of successful AI adoption across the GovAI Coalition. So this is where we're going to be spending some time, kind of doing some heads down work, figuring out how we can better support you all, and then come back probably around summer with that third meeting. That's really going to help boost that. But in the meantime, we're going to continue first Tuesday of the month. We're going to be talking use case demos, use cases that are being used across our communities, our jurisdictions, and really making an impact. That's what we have at the Use Cases Committee. Thanks, y'all, so much.
Thank you, Jamie. Really excited to hear about the vibe coding. I know some of the work around MCP that you shared in the last meeting. It gave me notes on things to do in the city of San Jose. So really loving that. And as Jamie's mentioning, we are finding ways every day to make sure that the coalition is better adapted to what we're seeing around AI and innovative technology and what governments need. Right now, that is collaborating more across our procurement, industry relations, and use cases committee, and expect some of those shifts happening over the next couple of months as we find the best ways to make this most useful for all of us. And now I will pass it off to Sarah or Arti on our data governance committee.
Hi, everyone. Arti Changri from City of San Jose. We met this Monday and we collected feedback on So I think last month we discussed on this meeting about what the focus should be, and one of the focus for the data governance committee is to really bring more adoption to the deliverables we had from last year. So this Monday, when we met with the committee members, we really focused in on what we need to do better in terms of the adoption. So some of the feedback we received was to create some basic minimum spec for ease of adoption for smaller organizations. So that's something that we need to work on. uh, Preparing some value options to share with the stakeholders to help with adoption again, and then some walkthrough guide for adoption based on the experience people have had so far in trying to adopt the deliverables from last year. So that's what our focus is going to be for the next month, and then we'll continue to build on the framework after that. So with that, next meeting will be March 16th, and I'll call out for Sarah if I missed anything, if she wants to cover anything as well. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, RT. So that just about does it for us, folks. Thank you so much for taking the time here today. Let me see if I can drop the slide deck link one more time here in the chat. If for all the links that we have for today. Again, take a look at the latest deliverables that we just released from the coalition. You've got, of course, our newsletter, our monthly newsletter. Huge shout out to Layla and Chelsea for putting that together. Our community engagement handbook. Take a look at that coming out of our community engagement committee. Thank you again, Megan, Liz. And check out our Getting Started with AI training guide. Huge shout out again to our Readiness Adoption Committee, to our Upskilling Working Group, and especially to Marty for putting that together. And of course, share and watch our introductory video, share it out with other folks. Thank you again for taking the time. I hope you made some connections today, and looking forward to seeing you on the next call. Take care, everyone.